Hello, everybody. Episode 16 will start once I get Will in here. And another guest. And speaking of Will, there is Will. What's going on, Will?
Good evening. Good evening. Yeah, not much. Another day in the life of your college kid. I've got my Minnesota blanket all wrapped around me here because my basement is freezing, but it is what it
And then there's Chris. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing all right. Audio sound good?
Yeah, something good on my end.
Yeah, I've got loud and clear as well.
Nice.
Well, it is the middle of April, so I think most areas of the country, unless you're in Colorado where it's snowing right now, I think a lot of people generally consider it to be outside of winter. So I think to start off, just to ease into this conversation here, is it spring where you are at right now, Ethan?
It's summer. Right now, it's summer. I say that, and then it's supposed to get really cold this weekend, apparently, get really chilly. So I think we'll bump it back down to spring. But as of right now, here in Central Illinois, it feels like summer. Everyone's wearing shorts, practically almost like no clothing at all. It's really weird because it feels like we went from that ice storm. It feels like 2 weeks ago, and now it's just poof out of nowhere. It's 80 degrees or so. So yeah, I guess it's summer right now, and I'll take it.
Yeah. As you can see right now in California, it's pretty sunny as usual, but actually, not even 2 days ago, it was pouring down rain. I think we're a little bit closer to winter than we are summer. We'll see how that develops over the next few weeks, but it's been a little chilly. And by chilly, it's 60 degrees, of course. For those of you in Wisconsin and Illinois, that's not all that cold.
Yeah,
But for us,
no, I think
whatever.
60 degrees. Yeah, 60 degrees is when people in Ethan's quirky college town start walking around with no clothes on. So,
Yep,
Oh,
uh,
that's a sweet spot. That's a sweet spot.
yeah.
anyways, it is almost the end of show choir season. We're not quite there, but we're almost there. Ethan, Illinois groups have been out of show choir season for a while. I don't even think that you guys had anybody compete in any national competitions after the season, did you? I don't think
Ooh,
anybody from Illinois went to nationals, did they?
did Wheaton North go to an HOA?
Yeah, but that was the same day as Wheaton South.
Oh, you're right. Well, then no, not really. Like I think Sweden's last competition was last week.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's
and
what I
there,
was getting.
but of course theirs was later than majority. Everyone's been pretty much done over here.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Wisconsin just had a couple
yeah.
finish up their seasons. We'll get to that in a little bit. We'll get there. We'll get there. But this is Show Choir Nation. This is the premier podcast of the Homeroom Show Choir Podcast Network. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us as we roll into the middle of April, and show choir season is still alive and well for certain pockets of the country, and so we will get to those pockets here in a little bit. But we will first off start with a circuit that is a little bit more isolated than a lot of the other circuits around the country, and that is the North Carolina circuit. The North Carolina State Finals were this past Friday and Saturday. Friday for the middle schools, Friday, Saturday for the high schools. And in the high school division, Voyager Academy Bull City Lights took home the win, followed by the Huff Howland Huskies, South Granville Shades of Blue, Lake Norman Show Formants, South Granville Cordon Blues, their women's group, and West Brunswick Harmony in Motion rounded out the competition. Ethan, do you remember anything of what we talked about last week in regards to North Carolina?
Yeah, that Lake Norman is in North Carolina, and this is NC State's. So that was something I learned from last weekend's show. But I mean, this competition, I went back and did some research because I was feeling studious. Finals are coming up, so I decided to look back a little bit. And Voyager has won this comp since 2014 when they've competed, but they only have 6 wins. The math isn't mathing, but if you add in the COVID years and when they just perform for fun, they've only won 6 times. And I that competition where they won or that they got second place was in 2014 to a group called Mitchell's Show Choir, and they're not around anymore. I think they stopped in like 2019, 2018, something like that. But I look back and something that surprised me. I didn't like this is a question to you guys too, because we're kind of in different pockets of the show choir community. Have you ever seen a competition with only one judge? Only one judge.
Are you sure that wasn't like they only knew about one of the judges and so only one judge was listed?
I'm pretty sure it's only one judge, Will. because it happened 2 years in a row where it was only uh who was it? I'm sorry. It was Andy Beck, and he does a lot of arrangements, and I think he only judges this competition. And I looked at it, and he had, well, I have to say he because he was the only one. He in that 2014 competition, um, the seventh place group got best vocals too. So it's kind of like, I wonder who had who where. It was, but again, I mean, uh, who knows if all the information was put in? But it's just kind of funny to look at. It's like, I I mean, when you go up to a show car competition, you're like, oh, we have to please six judges or four judges or whatever it is. No, you only have one person up there watching you, and it's just their opinion. I couldn't imagine if that was the case.
Yeah, California, that would not fly.
Yeah,
We're very particular with our judges here, and if it's any less than three, people start getting shifty. So
yeah, I will say the only place that would fly in Wisconsin is your like 3 school solo ensemble triangular, where it's like, oh, I have this musical theater solo that I started practicing 4 days ago. Well, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, you know. I think Wisconsin, yeah, some people do like 3 overall judges, but then some people do like 2 vocals, 2 choreo in a band, and it's all over the place. But I don't think I've ever been to a one judge competition, but it is interesting. Yeah, Mitchell was a little bit of a dynasty in the early years of the North Carolina State contest. So
Yeah. And besides that, I just want to give a shout out to the Howling Huskies because they were shut out previous in the season at their two competitions before, and they come out with a top placement like they usually do at NC State. So congrats to them for continuing this run that they have at NC State.
yeah, if we're doing shout outs, I want to shout out South Granville. They are a second year group. They started competing last year and they moved up into the podium position this year. And so they competed twice in Virginia earlier this year, or maybe once. I think just once in Virginia earlier this year at Manchester. And clearly it's paying off because they are, you don't know the point spreads or anything like that, but placement wise, they're right behind the big North Carolina 2 of Voyager and Huff. So that is that. We'll move on to the Fame National Show Choir Finals. This one taking place at the Encore Theater in Branson. In first place with Best Vocals and Best Band, Toma Limited Edition. In second place with Best Choreography, Sparta Upstage Adrenaline. In third place, Prattville Spotlight. And in fourth place, the Nevada Soundsational Singers. In the women's division, first place with Vocals and Choreo, Sparta Rise of Adrenaline. Second place, Nevada Treble Effects. First up, before anybody says anything, I have 2 things to say. Number one,
Yeah, as
I
you
am
should.
very proudly repping my Toma Limited Edition shirt today. This is the only show choir shirt I have that is not of my home group. I got a ultra short print shirt this year with some characters from their show.
That's
So
sick.
that is
that is insane.
it's pretty incredible.
That's kind of
To the
cool.
best of my knowledge, there are only 2 of these in existence. So that I have to be super proud of Toma after what they did this weekend. And second of all, we did have a perfect predictor in the house. Ethan hit on all of his placings. So congratulations to Ethan. You know, it's not that hard when you only got 6 groups, but
Yeah.
still a lot of room for things to wobble nonetheless.
No, yeah. You gotta take wins where you can take wins. I mean, we're at the end of the year, and I'm pretty sure I've only gotten like 3 perfect predictions on the year that I've kept track of. Yeah, so I sent this to you, Will. I was like, I sent you the result, and you're like, so what's the surprise here? Is it Wisconsin getting the top 2 placements? I was like, no, man, I got a perfect prediction. He's like, what? Yeah, but yeah, basically the storyline here is Wisconsin. Shout out Wisconsin, shout out Will. These are 2 programs, Toma and Sparta, who have seen an uptick lately, and it's really cool to see Wisconsin on somewhat of a national stage competing elsewhere and putting up results like this because beforehand I couldn't tell you personally last time I've seen Sparta or Toma at a national competition
You have
get these high of placements. Yeah, I was gonna say probably never.
either of them.
So it's really cool to see both of them up there, especially when they haven't been up there in general. So congratulations to those 2 programs and shout out to Wisconsin Show Choir. The other thing I wanted to shout out was maybe the surprise between Prattville and Nevada. I don't think it was really that much of a surprise because Patrick McCormick is doing a great job with that program. They're on the rise as well. They always go up against some really tough groups down south in their division, and they just ended up placing better than Nevada. So is what it is. But overall, shout out to Wisconsin Show Choirs on an amazing outing and finishing up the year for sure. And yeah, that's all I have for Fame Nationals.
Chris, I know California had a big event going on this past weekend, but were you able to keep tabs on the Fame Finals at all?
Oh, of course. I'm a nerd in the biggest sense. I gotta say, I have not seen Sparta show, but I've seen Toma. I love Toma, especially this year. They just have such a unique vibe to them. They don't really that their exact style doesn't really exist anywhere outside of them. It's just so much personality. Such a fun show to pick too. Popeye, I love when sets go to like older media. Like shout out to Oceanside's Jetsons set back in the day. Like I love those callbacks to old cartoons and stuff like that. It makes for some really interesting choreography. But I'd also like to say shout out to Sparta for taking home that best choreography. I didn't see that come in. I thought it would be a full Toma sweep, but good for them. They're going to be on my radar for this next coming year. So really, really good stuff at Fame Nationals. I'd like to see Toma against some more out of state groups next year. See how they do.
Yeah, well, just piggybacking off of a couple things that you said. Number one, Toma does go to the Hastings Swinging on the River most years, and they did sneak into finals here, and they were sixth this year. But this was the first year that they could really even seriously challenge for finals of that competition, because that is a very, very tough competition. You had groups from Illinois and Nebraska there this year, as well as Wisconsin and Minnesota. So they do brush up against a lot of regional powers, I'd say, on a semi-regular basis. But their brand of show choir, it was something that I struggled with when I was kind of making some of my postseason content for my Wisconsin podcast, because their post-COVID shows in order have been a Pinocchio show, a Scooby-Doo show, and a Popeye show. And how do you describe that? Is it a story show? Is it a novelty show? Is it technically just a regular theme show? Like, and I think I finally decided, I'm like, you know what, it's just going to be a unicorn, and I'm going to be happy with it being a
Yeah.
unicorn, because it's a very big group. There's a lot of energy on stage, and it's okay if it doesn't fit into a box, because it doesn't have to fit into a box. um, Ethan, going back to something you said, you can't remember the last time a Wisconsin group generally did pretty well on the national stage, and I would have to agree with you there. Sauk Prairie is really the one Wisconsin group that regularly goes to these kind of nationally sanctioned events. And last year at Fame Show Choir America, they wound up losing a really tight split caption decision to Auburn. And while it would have been really big news if they beat Auburn, I think a lot of people there from outside the state, they're just like, oh, Auburn won against somebody from Wisconsin that we've never heard of, whatever. But the scores were pretty close, and I'm very proud of the way they did. But to see not one but two Wisconsin groups on this national stage, yeah, I mean, it's not really a national finals. Like, we can say that the gig is up. But still, just to see groups competing in one of the highest profile events of the weekend, I think is really huge. And I just want to shout out Sparta, because this is only the end of their second year in the varsity division. They were in the prep division as late as 2 years ago. And just the meteoric rise that they have had in the past 2 years is incredible. They brought on another director in Skylar Erickson. They brought on a new choreographer in Jordan Webster Moore. They made a lot of improvements. They got better. And this is a group that I think a lot of people in Wisconsin and the surrounding states are going to have to pay attention to for a long time to come. One thing that we do have to talk about, though, regarding this event, and it's never really super fun to talk about, but we have to do it because we're the Show Choir News podcast, is that there was a scoring error in the Fame National Show Choir final. So this is actually kind of sort of hashtag breaking exclusive news on the Show Choir Nation podcast. I actually just got in my inbox this afternoon news that Fame actually incorrectly awarded the best choreography caption at the competition. And so they awarded it to Toma in Branson, but then today, I guess they figured out that it should have gone to Sparta. And so not the best year for national competitions and scoring errors. Wheaton had to put another finalist in the women's division. Show Choir Nationals had a placement error. Fame Finals had a caption error. I don't think that it's one big conspiracy of judging errors, but I think it just serves as a reminder to the community, whether you're hosting a small local comp with only 10 or a dozen groups, or you're hosting a national competition that has the eyes of the country. You better know your scoring and you better be confident in it. And even if you're confident in it, you better double check it. So I don't know if any of you guys have thoughts on that or if it's just a funny coincidence.
I kind of think it's a funny coincidence, but I mean, up to this point, until the national competitions, we were saying like this was a pretty clean year. Usually, you have some random ones pop up here and there, but overall, I think the scoring at regional competitions was pretty clean. And then you get to these national ones, and it just happens to, gotta double check your work. Something pops up. The math ain't mathin'. But yeah, it's kind of weird how this coincidence popped up, but there's nothing to really look into, I don't think.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think of the big judging, I'll call them situations that happened this year. In January, you had Omaha Burke, and that one had a weird caption split where I think best vocals was fourth and best choreo was fifth or something. And that one, I think, was the one kind of mistake because those captions wound up being handed out off of prelim scores in finals. So I was told that if they were to be handed out off of final scores in finals, then it would have gone to different ensembles. But ultimately, the final results wouldn't have changed because they got that right. But even at Grove City, no, not Grove City, Solon, even at Solon, where Piqua wound up winning despite being, I think, third in raw points, that was very controversial, and I heard about that one. But that was because ordinal consensus actually worked and did what it was supposed to do. Piqua was third in points, but when you took the ordinal consensus, Piqua was first, I believe on a tiebreaker, but I can't say for sure. All I know is that Solon implemented consensus rankings and they functioned as intended, and I think some people were kind of caught off guard a little bit by that, but it wasn't a scoring error per se. And then obviously in California you always have people contesting like, well, you see the margin between LaSalle and Burroughs at Burbank was actually only half a point, but then just because Burroughs came out on top, everyone says that LaSalle has a bad show this year. And like, while it's not a scoring error, it's just people extrapolating scores and whatnot. So Chris, I'm sorry if I offended you there, but yeah. Other than that, I think it's been a pretty clean year for the judging, and hopefully that continues into next season, and we can at the very least escape this season without any
For
more
sure.
huge judging catastrophes. We only got like one big competition left, so
Yeah, let's get through it.
I'm hoping there will be no mistakes at Oceanside. That's one that you really don't want to
Yeah,
mess up.
especially because everyone's eyes are going to be on it. If you're still following Shokar, there's only there's others, but this is the big one.
Yeah,
This is the big fish. So all eyes are going to be
yeah.
on.
This is a big one
well,
for sure.
the other con for running into a scoring error at Oceanside, I mean, Oceanside Soundwaves does not take the stage for their exhibition performance until 11:55 p.m. That means they're not done with their exhibition until 12:20 a.m. and they're not done announcing awards until like 12:45 a.m. If you have an error and people are going to be like, what, we sit around till 12:45 at your place just for you to not say the right stuff. Like, I'm not saying there's going to be Wheaton levels of time where it's going to be 3 a.m. and there's still people sitting in that gym.
Yeah.
But that is the other minus if you would have a scoring error at a competition like that. The other competitions that we had this week, one of them was the Jenks Trochella. Oh, Soundwaves is not exhibitioning Saturday night. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that comment in the chat, because I guess I really should have looked around at that. Okay. I guess the final awards ceremony, thank you, Dominic, for that comment, because that actually prompted me to do my research, aka scroll down on the webpage. It's only Advanced Mixed 1 awards, and that happens at 12:05 a.m. So I guess there's not too much on the line with that. They actually have 5 separate awards ceremonies on Saturday, along with another 2 on Friday. So so foreign to me as a Midwesterner, but that's okay. I respect the grind of having 7 awards ceremonies over 2 days. So we had the Jenks Trochella. And at the Jenks Trochella, the winners were the Broken Arrow Tiger Rhythm Group, vocals, choreo, and band for Tiger Rhythm. Joplin Sound Dimension, second place. Carthage Soundwave, third place. Joplin Touch of Class, fourth place. Broken Arrow Tiger Mystique in fifth place, and Broken Arrow Tiger Momentum in sixth place. lots of Broken Arrow, lots of Joplin. Ethan, what's the read?
For the read, uh, Fort Worth Southwest was supposed to be here, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they didn't attend?
Oh. Look at you being
Well,
studious because I did not even know that.
because I mean, I looked at it and I was like, okay, three Broken Arrow groups, that's fine. That's normal. We've seen that before. But I was kind of like, well, looking at it, I was like scrolling down, I was like, I don't see anyone saying that they didn't show up, but they're just not on the performance sheet for tier one. So reason why I was asking.
Okay. Yeah, that um they were definitely supposed to be there, and I don't think they were because the showcore.com page has like full results for all of the prelim divisions. So I am going to go out on a limb and say they did not come. Let me check this program that the Jenks people put online, which shout out to people who put that. You're a lifesaver,
Yeah.
and I love programs.
And while
Let's
you're
see.
doing that, I'll just keep going on until
They
you
did.
find it.
They are not in the program, so I
So
guess something fell through there. And I know like people in Texas were looking forward to that too. And it's weird because one of their feeder schools, or maybe it's not a feeder school, but the other school from Texas, Trinity Springs Middle School, actually did go there. So I guess you had two middle school groups from Texas there. Okay, and that is not a Fort Worth Southwest feeder. I think it's either a Keller feeder or Timber Creek feeder, I think.
okay.
Uh, but you had the Texas
Yeah,
middle school there, but no Texas high schools, which I guess that's it is what it is.
yeah. Three
But
schools
yeah,
dropped out of the comp, one middle school, and I think two high school groups. So I think you're right on there, Will. Thank you for that comment, by the way. But yeah, just to go on, sorry, go down that little rabbit hole, but we did talk about them last, so I did want to mention it, our last show. But yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to Broken Arrow. How could you not give a big shout out to Broken Arrow? I think our friend Courtney said it very well, or you may know her as Texas or Show Choirs of Texas. Um, the toy box is now closed, which was kind of like sad. I was like, dang. I was like, I only saw the show once, but I was like, I was so moved by that show, and that show was so memorable, and you can tell how much passion was on that stage. I was kind of sad that when she posted that, I was like, dang, that the toy box is closed. Now you can only watch it on YouTube and so on and so forth, and just reminisce about it. But they had a fantastic show. They went undefeated this season, besides at Wheaton Warrenville South, where they were the last choir to not make finals. So they were the fifth spot, only four made finals, which that's just a tough draw. It is what it is. But anyway, they had a fantastic season. And the other big shout I want to give is, of course, to Joplin Touch of Class and Broken Arrow Tiger Mystique for getting into finals. Because, I mean, it's never easy. And, of course, you have to give a big shout out to Broken Arrow as a whole. You get three choirs into finals. That's always a big feat and a lot of running around if you're a director or a combo or stage crew performers. So I know it was a busy day.
yeah, I think they actually have three different directors for the three different groups at Broken Arrow, because
Oh,
I
wow.
think Justin Foster does Tiger Rhythm, and then I
Yeah.
forget who does Tiger Mystique, but I think that's a different person. And then Tiger Momentum is actually from the Freshman Academy, which is
Yeah.
grade school there, and that is directed by Daniel Taylor. So I think the adults may have had it easier than some of the band or crew kids who may have doubled or tripled. Bless their hearts. But yeah, three groups in finals. It is definitely something that we don't see too often. Pleasant Hill did it at this competition last year. They put Hillside Singers as well as Hilltop Harmony and Powerhouse. That's their men's group name. I was like,
Yep, you're right.
oh.
You're
Um,
cooking.
but we see it in Nebraska occasionally. Indiana, since they do the separate finals, you don't see that too super often. But it is always cool to put three groups in finals. Chris, any observations that you have from this one?
Just want to say I love Broken Arrow. I love that program. Ever since they came in exhibition in 2020 at Burbank last, I believe, that was also the last show I saw before COVID. They had what I would call a legendary performance. It was a crowd favorite, even over that 2020 Los Al show, and one of Carlsbad's best shows ever. That was by hands down my favorite. Their choreography was amazing that day, and it still is to this day. They're just getting better and better. I would also like to point out that Touch of Class was actually behind Tiger Mystique in prelims, and they came up with the upset in finals. So really, really good job to Joplin High School. It looks like they're killing it, and I'm really excited to see what Oklahoma and Texas has to offer next season. I think they're growing very, very fast.
Absolutely. And we've given Broken Arrow a ton of their flowers, and I'll move on to some other groups in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to remind everybody that as late as 2013, Broken Arrow was only competing at Fame competitions. They would do either Fame Branson or Fame Chicago. And the first year that they really branched out from that was 2014. And so it's crazy to think that like this is like only year number 10, if you take out the COVID years, of Broken Arrow being a like bona fide, we do multiple competitions a year show choir program. And to think that they are like on that national elite level and have been on that nationally elite level for a long time. Yeah, I know they have Carmel like student body numbers. I know they have a ton of support and it's a cushy suburban school. And I know, but there are plenty of schools in that same situation who don't do that. And to do it in as short of a time frame as they did, I mean, they were, like Chris said, turning heads nationally as early as 2020 or 2019 even. And so to do it in essentially a 5-year span, I think is incredible. So just a shout out to Broken Arrow there. As for Joplin's girls, I actually have them picked above the mixed group sound dimension. I've been a big touch class believer for several years now. Missouri's women's groups are some of the best in the country, in my opinion. Indiana people come at me. It's just what I believe. El Dorado Springs picked up a really good win in the small group division. That's a group that kind of gets swallowed up in a lot of the bigger Missouri schools. And to see them get their own division win there, it was good for them. And I think that was pretty much it from Jenks. Trochella, as we mentioned last week, got to be one of the leaders for competition name of the year. May or may not be able to vote on that in our homie awards. But that's our bridge segment. We'll talk about that in a little bit and get a little myself. And yeah, like Chris said, Texas is expanding to 6 competitions next year, I do believe, which is as many as Virginia, as many as Minnesota. And then Oklahoma, I hope that we see one or more as well. Hopefully Jenks comes back. Maybe we get a Broken Arrow one. Maybe we get a Mustang one. Maybe we get something else. Who knows? So that is that. And moving on to the biggest competition of this past weekend, if you look at the number of groups attending, that is the John Burroughs Music Showcase. Lots of results for this one here, so I think we'll just take it division by division here. Advanced Mixed 1, we had Los Alamitos Sound Effects taking music, show, and the win over Burbank in sync. It is Los Al's first win of the year. I don't know if anyone expected anything else, but it still feels weird to be in April and we're saying Los Al picks up their first win of the year.
Yeah, it's definitely strange to say, but that's kind of how it goes. Los Al year by year has one of the toughest schedules of any choir in this country, to be honest. And I do respect them for that, for going out and facing the best of the best week after week. But, you know, sometimes you get second, but it's still incredible against the caliber that they're going against. And they came up on top today, and who knows next week?
Ethan, any thoughts?
So John Burroughs is kind of setting this up as the preview of what is to come here, and like the big one. So it's kind of cool to be like, well, here's a little preview of what might happen, and it's like, oh, but what if we threw John Burroughs into the mix? So it's kind of like we're throwing in these 3 choirs, and it's like, well, if you look at it now, it's Los Al probably and John Burroughs shooting for position at 1. And then sadly, Burbank is probably going to be at the 3 right now. But the thing is, though, with California Show Choir, what I learned is none of it matters at all. None of it matters at all. Clearly, because all these shows are fantastic, and it's whatever the judges are feeling that day. You know, maybe you didn't hit a thing a certain way, vocal part, choreography could be a little sloppy compared to another group. You never know what's going to happen, and I mean that's just show choir for you. And of course, being from the Midwest and me looking over there, it's kind of like I can't say anything because when those results happen, I'll be like, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Or I'll be like, I had no clue that this group was going to jump this group. or there's a time penalty or somewhat. You never know what can happen at this competition.
Yeah.
Right. We have a very good comment in the chat from our friend Nathan over at Circle City Show Choir, and he says people could be sick or injured. And I guess I've heard from multiple places now that Los Al swapped one of their leads.
Yep.
And so for whatever reason that is, I don't know, and I don't want to speculate, but I have it on pretty good authority that one of Los Al's leads switched, and that's one of those things where like you just never know. And Burbank, I think for better or worse, I think them dropping a caption to La Cueva earlier this year, I think kind of knocked them down a couple notches in a lot of people's minds. And I don't know if that's fair or not. I think that a lot of people completely undersell the gap between Advanced Mix 1 and Advanced Mix 2. I think that, especially you look at people not from California who are, or the West, I guess, in general, who are rattling off, who they would pick. And it's in short order, Los Al, Burroughs, Burbank, in some combination. But then, like, it just trails off, and you're like, so who else is from California or the West? And they're just like, and it's like, you've got great programs like La Cueva, who's from New Mexico, and you've got other great programs that we'll talk about right here. And it is really, I think, imperative that a lot of people learn more about California, because there are a lot of other great groups like Chaparral Platinum Effects, who took home Music Show and the division win in Advanced Mix 2 ahead of Bonita Vista and Helix. And Chaparral, I think, Chris, you've seen Chaparral's show this year. What is the read on Chaparral?
Okay. This is their first year, I believe, using custom arrangements. If I'm not mistaken, correct me, someone, if I'm wrong. This was unexpected. I do think that the read on this competition was it would be a Bonita Vista sweep. That's what I thought as well. Going into it, having seen the two shows at Los Al, of course, Bonita Vista came up on top over Chaparral. You won't see that on showchoir.com because of course, the splitting of the advanced tier 2 division that we were not told about beforehand, but is what it is. But Chaparral seemed it seemed like there was a bigger gap between Chaparral and Bonita at that competition, but they put their heads down. They went to work. Yes, post-COVID. Thanks, Jordan. This is their first year without custom arrangement, or with custom arrangements post-COVID, to be accurate. But yeah, they put their heads down. They grinded this week, and they came out with a full sweep on top. I don't have the scores from this competition. I'm sure it was close, but I feel great for Chaparral. Doing a little bit of research with some of the homeroom team, we discovered that this is actually the first win in program history that's not at Brea Olinda. So they have won 3 times at Brea Olinda before in the past, but this is their first win outside of that competition, and it's a full sweep. It's their first win post-COVID, and it's their 4th win in program history. You can say this or that about the what groups aren't there, but you can only beat who's there. They did that, and I'm so happy for them. I'm hoping that they take an even bigger step next year and start to scoot their way into that upper echelon of the tier 2 groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Ethan, any thoughts on this division?
Yeah, the only thought I have was we always talk about how groups get better as the season go along. The first competition that comes to my mind where these groups maybe performed was like in mid-February, I believe, which, I mean, to us is mid-season, which is kind of funny. But for them, it was beginning of the season. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I looked at it a while ago. I feel like Helix beat Chaparral. Is that correct?
They did actually. They beat him earlier on in the season, I believe, at Bonita Vista.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, they came from behind there as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy to see how much Platinum FX has grown. And then you throw Bonita Vista in there. I feel like Helix lost to them earlier in the season as well. But so it was kind of like, well, this might be, like you said, Bonita Vista's to take if Chaparral finished below Helix before. But again, that was in mid-February. Now we're in mid-April.
Yeah.
And they are completely different groups, completely different shows. And You gotta give a big shout out. Congratulations to Platinum FX.
Yeah, I'm over the moon for them. I know those kids. They're some of the sweetest. This is one of the sweetest groups of choir. They're always dancing, having fun. They're cheering the loudest for other groups going up to get their trophies, and I'm just so glad that it was their turn this time.
Yeah, also, one other thing about Helix to kind of close off this division, they had not competed since February 24th, and that is a long time ago.
Oh my gosh, that's
That's a
wild. Is
So,
that the biggest break?
gap right there. That's
yeah, I think that has to be one of the most insane midseason gaps because they're at Oceanside next weekend too. So they had 2 in February and 2 in April, and they just straight up said peace out to the month of March. So that's kind of wild. Moving down to intermediate mixed, we had Oceanside Soundwaves taking home the win and showmanship, and then Los Al Connection in second, Carlsbad with music in third, and Golden Valley Melodies of Gold in fourth. For all of you Midwestern people, this is like the winner getting choreo and the third place group getting vocals. Definitely something that we don't see a ton, but I did some research. One of the very few pieces of research that I did for the show, I guess, was Oceanside. And Oceanside has been an absolute force in intermediate mixed after the pandemic. Their record is just littered with first and second places. And when you're beating the Los Al group in the division, I think you might have to take a look at moving up. And I don't pretend to know their program or anything like that, but Oceanside winning to me here is the big story.
I agree. Huge shout out to Oceanside. I watched all of these intermediate shows live on the stream. I was not actually there. I agree with the captions. The placement is it was tough for me to decide where I would put them. I'm really, really, really happy for Oceanside. I think both Oceanside and Carlsbad could be looking for a move up next year. Oceanside's been on the cusp for years and years and years and years. Hopefully, this win will propel them or give them the confidence they need to make the move up. And hopefully, Carlsbad kills it at Oceanside next week, and they can move up too. I want that Tier 2 advanced division to be as crowded as possible. Also, Connection had a great performance. Their vocals are always solid. Their choreo is always solid. But these groups these schools where their main groups are intermediate, they just have so much heart. Everything goes into those shows. They're passionate as those groups in Tier 1, and I'm really, really excited to see them thriving.
Good. We will move on to Novice Mixed 1, which was a very crowded 8-choir division. Saugus Blue Heat took home music, show the win, and a vindication of Ethan's prediction of them winning the division. Esperanza Reverberation was second, Los Altos LA Dynamics third, Western Sierra the Alphas fourth, and Carlsbad's novice group Purple Rain was fifth. Ethan, second victory lap of the episode for you. You're not used to getting this many things right in 1 week. How does it feel?
It feels great. It feels great, Will. I just want to thank God. I want to thank my family. I wouldn't no, but kidding. I just guessed a winner in a division that I knew very little about. The only thing I really knew was that this is the first season after Mark Myers for Esperanza, and I knew that Blue Heat was a choir that is always battling for top spots, and I just love the name Blue Heat because I think that name is extraordinary. And I also think Blue Heat earlier this season went up against some bigger choirs that are in other divisions as well, and they might have not gotten those placements, so I kind of saw them as a potential underdog in here. But again, they showed out. I think these placements are right to my eye. Chris, do you have any say on that?
Yeah.
Do they look good to you?
I can't say that the top 3 is unexpected. I think those were kind of the 3, maybe throw Carlsbad in there, that were in the mix for those top 3 placements. I am surprised that Saugus ended up sweeping. I did not see that coming. Their vocals have improved week to week, like a ridiculous amount. And I saw these actually live in the theater. But the headline here is, wow, Saugus, those kids can dance. I was kind of shocked, and I'd seen the show before. It's a show about Britney Spears' life. It's pretty cool. I do recommend giving it a watch if it ever does pop up on YouTube. But man, they can dance there. And I'm super happy for Saugus. They're of course in that Santa Clarita Hart. They're in Hart's school district, so they're kind of a little bit of a little brother in that district. But I'm glad to see them moving up the ranks. Also, got to give a big shout out to Esperanza, first year. One of my partners in crime, Anna Geron, is doing some work for them there. Shout out to her and Esperanza's amazing season so far. I'm sure you guys have heard, maybe some of the viewers haven't, but they have a team that I like to call the show choir Avengers over there for their small little choir of like maybe 20. They've got the likes of Eric Hall, Hannah Johnson, the show designer that does work for Lynn Marr and Walkie. They've got an amazing team, and of course their brand new director, world renowned. Really, really exciting stuff in the novice division, which feels weird to say, but they're amazing, to be honest. I would like to give a shout out real quick though to Western Sierra Collegiate Academy. They came out of nowhere. I did not see any sort of placement for them coming because honestly this novice division was stacked, and they came in, they killed it. I'm super happy for them. I'm sure they were psyched on that fourth place finish. And big shout out to Carlsbad Purple Rain's soloist. It's a Madagascar theme. And the girl who played Gloria the Hippo, my goodness. That is one of the greatest novice soloists I've ever heard, for what that's worth.
Good deal. Yeah. I also wanted to shout out Western Sierra. They're the very rare Northern California group. I think it's them and maybe Monterey has come down in the past couple of years to one or two events. And that is pretty much it for NorCal groups. For the sake of time, because somehow we spent 20 minutes talking about this already, we're just going to rip through the rest of the results here. In Novice Mix 2, Eisenhower bounced back with a win with Music and Show. Then Valencia and Granada Hills rounding out that division. Advanced Women's, Los Alamitos Soundtrack took Music and Show over Burbank. Intermediate Women's, Los Al Exquisite Music and Show over Bonita Vista and Oceanside. Novice Women's, you probably already know what's coming. Shocker, it's another Los Al win. Accent taking home Music and Show over Diamond Bar, Eisenhower, Western Sierra, and Apple Valley. Missing Mount Eden right now. Yeah. Random sidetrack. I said we wouldn't get sidetracked anymore, but shout out Mount Eden. I didn't know a lot about them in high school, except that their men's group was named Who's Yo Daddy, which is the best show choir name of all time. So I am missing Mount Eden right now too, and I know that a lot of districts are going in different ways regarding the ways they want to approach the arts and music and core music specifically, and some of those opportunities, they just simply don't exist anymore for the students through the fault of nobody besides some district administrators. So yeah, I think there are several programs in California that I miss. But in the men's division, rounding it out, because I was just totally sidetracked there. Los Al Extreme taking home the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th division win for Los Al Choir at this event. Taking Music and Show over Helix TBH. All right, our bridge segment, which we were supposed to get to 15 minutes ago. Vote for Show Choir Madness Finals. Those are live. And our annual Homie Awards will go live on Thursday, and we will be announcing the winners on this very podcast next week, Monday. We will have so many categories for you to vote on, and it will be a phenomenal time. So check back at this very show next week, Monday, to see the winners of the 2024 Homie Awards. And as always, all of the regular content is on showchoir.com, and we're back into our preview segment. So into the Rocky Mountains of Colorado we go. For the Colorado West Performance Music Invitational, this one doesn't have a lot of groups. It has 4 groups over 3 divisions. The returning champion, Grand Junction Central, is also performing again this year, and as is the second place group, Fuchsia Monument. So you've got 2 groups going there, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen these groups outside of Colorado before. So
Nope.
we'll move to Oceanside. And hey, we're here at Oceanside. Guess what? It's more California talk, so buckle up. I hope you like the sunny West Coast. In Advanced Mix 1, we have John F. Kennedy executive order. There we go. I didn't write that down on the show sheet, and I should have. John Burroughs Powerhouse, Los Alamitos Sound Effects, and Burbank in Sync. It is the Big 3+1. This is the headlining division comp in California. It's what Chula used to be, and now it is Oceanside, this big jamboree at the end of the year where all of the major players are. Chris, you are the local. I mean, what's the vibe? What can we expect? Is it just going to be chaos?
Yeah. Yeah. Oceanside, it's just such a legendary competition. I've actually never attended it before, but that will change hopefully this weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be chaos. I can start my segment where I go down the list if you guys would like, or we can.
Well, I think, Ethan, do you have any thoughts on this at all?
Well, I mean, first off, what a competition, like you said, Chris. It's kind of funny that we just throw John F. Kennedy in there. I mean, we don't just throw them in there, but in terms of quote unquote the big three and then +1, I think Will, you put that perfectly. Um, my only question is, and I think you'll answer it here in a little bit, so maybe just a little preview.
I will. Yeah.
Can John F. Kennedy throw a wrench into this at all? Do you think?
Yes, but you may never know.
Yeah. Okay. That kind of was the answer I was kind of thinking
Yeah.
of. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough without perhaps seeing like public score sheets. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, JFK is another group where we haven't seen him in a hot minute, so there's a lot of room for that show to grow. And we've seen non-big three groups give Burbank a run for the money this year. I think this is another group that can they throw a wrench into things? And if we define wrench as getting close to Burbank on the sheets, I think absolutely they have the potential to do that. Will the world ever know? I mean, in all likelihood, no. So can they throw a wrench in? Absolutely, I think they can. The answer is like, are we going to know if they threw a wrench in it? Probably not. One last cut in from me on California programs that I miss. Vista is another California program that I missed because if I am not mistaken, is this Oceanside Sound Off competition not a direct descendant of the Vista Amphitheater Festival at the Moonlight?
It is indeed.
There we go.
Wow.
So all the way, Brandon kids, they like to be like, well, you can perform on the same stage as Imagine Dragons in our show choir competition. And that's very cool. And I'm not discounting that at all. But they got to remember that Vista was the OG amphitheater show choir competition before that unfortunately ended after the pandemic.
Yeah.
So,
and then you also have those competitions would perform at Disneyland or Epcot, and it would be outside. If you ever look up those videos, they're always fun to watch because you can't hear a word they're saying because it's windy. So those are always good watches.
I bet there was one judge at that competition too.
Probably.
Anyway.
Oh, no, it was the next edition, but yeah.
Yeah, so enough of a sidetracking for me. Chris, we've got Glendora, Chaparral, Bonita Vista, Valley Vista, and Helix in advanced mix to 5 groups. I don't know if it's as crowded as it could possibly be, but it's definitely getting up there. I mean, this is one of those divisions that you as an advanced mix 2 junkie kind of dream of, right?
Yeah, this isn't the biggest tier 2 I've seen. That's definitely got to go to Hart and Los Al. Especially this year, those 2 competitions were kind of the battleground. And of course, it ended in a Burbank dropping a caption. But there is a storyline here to follow. Definitely what will happen to Platinum Effects. If they can pick up that 3rd place again, that will cement just a legendary season for those kids. And of course, Bonita and Helix will also be gunning for that 3rd place spot. But really, this is a tale of 2 tiers within the tier. It's Glendora and Valley Vista, and then Chaparral, Bonita, and Helix are kind of in their own competition here. I'm not saying that those lower 3 couldn't break in there, but I would say it's unlikely. Glendora versus Valley Vista is the headline in this tier 2 division. I think they're probably closer, at least in Glendora's case, they're probably closer to Division 1 than they are to the rest of that Division 2. But I think Valley Vista can win vocals here. Whether they will or not, we'll see. But Glendora versus Valley Vista is going to be a very, very interesting matchup. We'll see what happens, but rooting for Chaparral to come in that third place.
All right, Ethan, do you recognize any of these groups, or should we head to the next division down?
Yeah, I recognize all of them. Am I qualified enough to give a prediction? Probably not. But just my one thing is, wouldn't it be awesome, like you said, if Chaparral somehow, some way, pulled this off and just ended on the biggest high note that that I know of?
Oh,
But of course, yeah. So I mean, but of course you have some monsters in there like Valley Vista, Glendora, and then of course you're going to have Helix and Bona Vista gunning back at them. So
right.
that's an amazing tier 2 choir list for California, and I can't wait to see how that plays out.
Good, yeah. In the next division down, we have intermediate mixed 1, which is just Low South Connection and Burroughs Soundwave. So good luck to those groups as they battle it out. Intermediate mixed 2, we have another absolute banger of a division. We've got Carlsbad Sound Express, Chula Vista Man Attraction, Shadow Ridge Stellar Effects, Golden Valley Melodies of Gold, and Valley Vista Voltage. Another 5-group division, Chris. I think Ethan and I know even less about this one than we did about Advanced Mixed 2.
As you go down the list, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. We're like running out of things to say.
Yeah. This is gonna be this is kind of the same story as tier 2. It's gonna be between Carlsbad and Valley Vista probably here. I have Valley. I have Carlsbad coming out on top. Probably Valley Vista getting second. I would be rooting for Golden Valley to get that third place right there. They've been competing hard all year and have not had the placement so far, and I think they could do it this time. I think they could take that third spot down and just end the season on a great note. So rooting for them. Shout out to Shadow Ridge and Chula Vista though. Chula I missed when they were back in tier 2. They were a great program over there. But also another small storyline: Shadow Ridge, Valley Vista, 2 Arizona groups in that tier 4. Really, really interesting to see how this Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, California mega circuit is kind of in closing here.
All right, and then moving down to novice mixed, we have Los Altos, LA Dynamics, Eisenhower's Ike Singers, Willow Canyon Evolution, and Carlsbad Purple Rain. We saw Eisenhower take a big win last week. Well, not the biggest of wins, but still a win nonetheless. And then we also saw Los Altos have a good placing. Plus, you have another Arizona group in Willow Canyon in here. It seems like Arizona is attacking ship and heading west this weekend. Who's going to win? I'll put it bluntly. Who's going to
win? It's anyone's guess. All 4 of these groups could take it home, and I love this division for that reason. I would say I'm gonna go Los Altos. I don't know. Eisenhower could take it. Carlsbad could take it. Willow Canyon could take it. But I'm gonna go Los Altos. That's my gut. That's what my heart's saying.
Great. I mean, I'm usually the opinion guy on this podcast, so I think it's phenomenal that somebody else is finally the opinion guy, because it's the place where I simply cannot have an opinion, because if I had one, it'd be very, very wrong. As we move into the single gender fields, we have got 4 women's divisions. We've got all 4 groups from advanced mix also competing in advanced women's 1. We've got Burbank, John Burroughs, JFK, and Los Al. So we've got another absolutely tight matchup there. In advanced women's 2, we've got Glendora, we've got Los Al Exquisite, John Burroughs Decibels, and Valley Vista Tempest. So Valley Vista, I feel like I've heard a lot about their mixed group, but I don't know how much I've heard about their women's group. Chris, do you have a read on them?
Yeah, they're good. They're great, actually. Those Burroughs and Los Al prep groups are going to be tough to crack. But I can say that Tempest vocals are going to they're going to have some of those Los Al and Burroughs parents sweating. I promise that, at the very least.
And I will say, credit where credit is due. When I was at Wheaton, and there was a very healthy contingent of Los Al parents there. First of all, shout out Los Al for traveling very, very well to a competition outside of Chicago, but they were one of the most like involved groups of parents that I've seen in a long time, because there are, the couple of parents from every choir who are like, well, we really need to beat this group by 3.5 points, because then that means that we'll beat the other group by 12 points or whatever. But like Los Al as a group collectively, their parents had some of the most show choir know-how that I've seen out of a group of parents from a specific school in a long time. So shout out Los Al's parents. And I think that they would definitely sweat if it was warranted. In intermediate women's, we've got Bonita Vista and Helix. Novice women's, Chaparral, Willow Canyon, Eisenhower, Valley Vista, Vortex, and Los Alamitos Accent. Shout out Valley Vista for bringing 4 groups. Like, hello. I feel like this is the most slept on 4-group school in the country. So there's that.
For sure.
And then in advanced men's, we've got Los Alamitos Extreme and John Burroughs Men at Work. And in novice men's, we've got Helix TBH. Chris, when was the last time you saw a split men's division?
I don't know that I've seen one. I don't love it, but I understand it. As a director of a men's group that performs poorly in rankings, I can say I'm a bit of an expert on this field, but I don't know. It feels unnecessary, especially because the base division is so non-competitive. Not in the sense of there aren't good groups in it, just in the sense of like they're all funny and not very serious. It's just like, I don't know. It's fine. I understand if you're from Helix CBH. Like, if you're Helix CBH, you know that you're just not going to get anywhere close to Burroughs and Los Al. But I don't know. I like keeping the divisions together. That's my personal opinion. Helix CBH, shout out, man. Last year they beat my group of 25 plus ish with 6 kids on a microphone, and that takes some spirit, man, and that takes some rehearsal and takes dedication. So a really big shout out to Helix. They make waves in that bass division, although they don't always come out on top. Also, I would like to put in my word about John Burroughs Powerhouse, or not Powerhouse, Men at Work being the best single gender. That's right, not men's, single gender choir in the nation. I saw them 2 times this season. Their show is about corn. Just straight up corn, fields of corn. It's incredible. I cannot tell you how incredible it is. That might be my hottest take for the entire year, but they just blew me away. Each and every single time I saw them, and I get to watch Burbank, Los Al, and Burroughs on a weekly basis, so it does take a lot to impress me. Men at Work, man, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it, but
Now,
incredible.
See, I thought I was going to have the take of the day when I said that Missouri women's groups were just as good as Indiana women's group. And somehow you have managed to upstage me. So congratulations to you, good sir, for upstaging me in the take of the day category, which Ethan never wins that one either, but that's okay.
Nope.
With that being said, what do you think of corn? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Do you enjoy eating it? What's your opinion about corn?
I was kind of neutral on corn before Powerhouse or before Men at Work came along, and now I'm like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. After that Friday session, the day after, I was like, I'm craving corn. It was like implanted into my brain.
Now I gotta watch the show now. I mean, being surrounded by fields of corn, it makes a Midwesterner turn their head. I gotta watch it. I might be a little skeptical. I might be a little hard on it, but you gotta watch shows about corn if you're surrounded by corn.
You have to.
So it's a good sell.
And if you do, I recommend checking out Mads at Work. That's the exhibition where the Burroughs choirs actually combine the Men at Work show with the Sound Sensation show. And it's hilarious. The trebles are so talented and so fierce and strong with their goddess theme set. Right into, they switch corn number. On the Burroughs live stream on that Friday night, I recommend if you're looking for some weird show choir, check it out. What a performance! That's all I gotta say.
Well, on that wonderful note, we will close this episode out. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you joined late, this entire episode will be available on Spotify and YouTube tonight. So, Chris, thank you for joining us. We appreciate all of your California knowledge, since this is really the time of the year where California takes center stage. A reminder to vote in the Show Choir Madness Finals, and also to vote for the Homie Awards when that goes live on Thursday. We will be right back here next week with the Homie Award winners and all of your Oceanside coverage. Don't forget about that. So with that being said, for Ethan and Chris, I am Will, and have a great week, everybody.